And here is the Writer's Almanac for Saturday. It's the 5th of October, 2019. It's the birthday of Helen Churchill Candy, born in New York City, 1858, who wrote a how-to guide in 1900 entitled How Women May Earn a Living. She had to do that after her husband became so abusive that she had to leave him with her 2 children. She wrote books about the decorative arts, a novel, moved to Washington, and became an interior decorator. She was in Europe early in 1912 and sailed back home on the Titanic on its maiden voyage, was rescued aboard lifeboat number 6, and wrote all about it for Collier's Weekly magazine. And it's the birthday of the rocket scientist Robert Goddard, born in Worcester, Massachusetts, 1882. He was inspired by H.G. Wells's The War of the Worlds to try firing rockets. Made a liquid-fueled rocket in 1914, and then one that ran on solid fuel. On this date in 1926, he completed his first successful launch. The New York Times made fun of him back in 1926, and in 1969, after Apollo 11 left for the moon, the Times printed an apology, but Goddard had been dead for 24 years. And it was on this day in 1789 women in Paris led a march on Versailles. The price of grain had been going up. There was a bread shortage. People were starving. Public feeling was running high. On October 4th, there had been reports of a sumptuous banquet at the Palace of Versailles. And so on the cold, rainy morning of October 5th, a group of women began to march across the city from the markets in East Paris. About 6,000 of them, laundresses and fishwives, market women carrying pitchforks and broomsticks. They marched 13 miles in the rain to Versailles. It took them about 6 hours. About 20,000 members of the military decided to follow in support. They arrived at Versailles in the evening. A small group of women were allowed inside to speak directly with King Louis XVI, who, in the end, accepted their demands, and he and the king and their young son went with the women back to Paris in a carriage, surrounded by women who were chanting that they were bringing the baker, the baker's wife, and the baker's boy. Here's a poem for today by Maxine Kumin, Nurture. From a documentary on marsupials, I learned that a pillowcase makes a fine substitute pouch for an orphaned kangaroo. I'm drawn to such dramas of animal rescue. They are warm in the throat. I suffer, the critic proclaims, from an overabundance of maternal genes. Bring me your fallen fledgling, your bummer lamb. Lead the abused, the starvelings, into my barn. Advise the hunted deer to leap into my corn. And had there been a wild child, filthy and fierce as a ferret, he is called in one 19th century account a wild child to love. It is safe to assume, given my fireside inked with paw prints, there would have been room. Think of the language we too, same and not same, might have constructed from sign, scratch, grimace, grunt, vowel, laughter, our first noun, and our long verb, howl. A poem by Maxine Kumin, Nurture, from her selected poems 1960 to 1990, published by W.W. Norton and used by permission here on the Writer's Almanac. Be well, do good work, and keep in touch.